Welcome everyone to the first Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Picard. I'm Brandon T. McClure, one of the Fake Nerd Podcasts, and I'm joined with Michael Karls of the Downright Nerdy Podcast. There you are.
Thanks for having me, buddy. Appreciate it. Very excited about this.
Thank you for doing this. You're the only one who I know who's going to watch the show, so I was like, hey, why not?
And actually, as we speak, Riley is watching it right now.
Oh, wow. I watched it a second time while
you're lucky. I wish I could have.
Yeah. I liked it a lot better the second time, I think. Less critical of it.
Yeah.
So let's just get started. As you guys know of this channel, if you are fans of the Fake Nerds Watch channel, then we go through episode by episode. So this is basically an after show for Star Trek Picard that Michael Karls and I will do every week. Hopefully we can keep that up.
There's 8 episodes, so I think it should be good.
Yeah. So let's just get into it. Michael, what did you think of the first episode?
So the first episode, I saw it one time, and I was actually pleasantly surprised for what I was expecting of it. And for what I was expecting was, I wasn't expecting anything as great as TNG was for us 20 years ago. But I think that I was satisfied enough that it made all my nostalgic feelings come up and made me happy enough to and excited enough to watch the second episode. It didn't make me hate it. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think upon first impressions, I was definitely more critical of it. Like I mentioned on our last live show that we did, that this is the first time that Star Trek has ever dealt with a character that it's already dealt with. You know, revisiting a character after his story was over. And so on that kind of lens, I was very, very hesitant to give this one a shot. But it was really nice to see him back.
It was. And, right before I started it up, I took a step back. I tried to take a step back. I was talking with my dad, and he asked me what it's about, right? And I was thinking about it, and Star Trek: The Next Generation, Star Trek, the original series, DS9, they're all focused on the places, whether it be a ship or a station, and their crew. This Star Trek Picard is focused on the man, right?
Yeah.
And I really loved how they, going back to the nostalgic part, they took some of the best parts of his life from TNG and kind of gave it a modern twist without too much of the action stuff that I guess you kind of have to have nowadays. I liked the slow pace of it. It reminded me of the old TNG days, to be quite honest with you. It felt like it was almost needed, especially since everything that we've gotten post Enterprise has been a very fast paced type of Star Trek. And I really like that everything slowed down.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm quite on board right now with Star Trek being a show about one person. So used to just being an ensemble cast. That was my issue going forward with Discovery. Like why I couldn't really get into it was that we were so focused on Michael Burnham that I just couldn't. I didn't care about anyone else in the cast because we weren't supposed to. We were supposed to just be focused on Michael Burnham. And Star Trek's always been about ensemble. And that's the issue when you bring Star Trek into serialized storytelling, is that you have to focus in on one person, and you kind of have to take away the episodes that would deal with one person or episodes that would deal with just a random transporter accident or things like that, because you're doing a serialized story. So seeing Picard in that situation is a little bit like Whiplash.
However, though, in its defense, the thing that will separate it from Discovery is that Picard is a crew of one right now. He's still attempting to build his crew, right? The first part of his crew is going to be probably those 2 Romulan assistants that he has of some sort, or that doctor from the Daystrom Institute, Allison Pill, yeah. So they may be part of the crew. I mean, we don't know yet, but I would assume since they're lightweight big names that they're probably going to be part of the crew. And I think we actually see them in some of the trailers as well.
Yeah, the trailers certainly have Allison Pill.
Yeah. So I think that the Picard, when we look at the title Star Trek Picard, Picard is what the crew is right now. It's just him at this point in the early stages, and he is the crew. So there's really not much else there's really no other character crew dynamic really to explore, because we're looking at it almost through his lens, right? Through his eyes.
Right. So let's get into some of the story beats of what we saw in this trailer.
Okay.
And this, sorry, not the trailer, the show.
The show, yes.
We open on the Enterprise D and 10 forward.
Yes.
Which was cool. Happy to see that.
It was neat. Obviously, we know just almost immediately that it is a dream, because we see Data in the newer uniforms from First Contact.
I wanted to point that out.
As soon as we saw that, I obviously knew that this was going to be a dream of some sort. It wasn't a flashback.
I really like how the dreams are off.
Did you notice that the dream it was very reminiscent of the dream that Picard had in First Contact?
A little bit, yeah. They end very much the same way.
Just almost that jump scare, that feeling towards the end of the dream, right?
Yeah,
scare, but yeah.
I really like how the uniform cues you to the dream being off. Like, it's Data in his Nemesis outfit, not his next gen outfit, but he's in the next gen set. And the next time we see Data, he's in his next gen outfit, but he's on the Vineyard. I really appreciated the kind of like how it kind of throws you off, and you're like, this isn't reality, but it's close. So it fools Picard a bit.
And so during that dreamscape, it ends with the destruction of Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Right, from
the Utopia Planitia shipyards.
Yes, exactly. Right, where the Enterprise and actually all the ships that we know and love, they're all created there for the most part. But then he wakes up and he's in his bed, right?
Yeah, he's in his bed in his vineyard, and the vineyard has definitely grown since the last time we saw it.
Yes, well, it's been burned down and then kind of regrown, right?
Oh, it didn't burn down.
It did, yeah. So the house.
They died in a car crash. They died in a fire in a car.
Okay. I'm gonna double check.
We'll double check that, but yes. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure that's what happened.
All right. I'm pretty sure
because it was just Robert and Renee. It wasn't his wife.
Yes. I thought it was in the barn, but okay. All right.
Oh well.
Either way.
It has expanded.
It has expanded. Yes, it looks quite large. He has a crew of his own, I guess, helping him out.
He's got 2 Romulans working for him, which is very interesting to me. That they
gave the Romulans a newer look. They don't look
not much,
but enough for I think people like us who are true fans to kind of notice it, right?
Yeah, they've accented the eyebrows a bit more. Than the last time we saw them.
A little hairier too. A little bit more scruffy, not as plastered with the hair gel. Yeah, I wonder if that's just because of they're people without a planet. Could be.
Yeah, maybe. So this definitely does take place after the events of the inciting incident of Star Trek 09, with the Hobus star being destroyed. Yes. The Romulan system is destroyed, and Picard, as we speculated from the trailers, Picard led the relief effort. Now, this was like Starfleet's bad day, apparently, because they're ready to do this relief effort, but then the synthetics rise up and destroy the Utopia Planitia shipyards. Yep. And I do kind of like that Picard was like, Starfleet abandoned these people. 900 million.
So just rewind real quick. We find that out. Picard is about to do this interview with a Bajoran reporter.
Oh, is she Bajoran? I didn't even catch that.
Bajoran. Yep, she's Bajoran. Actually, it's kind of neat. They have little throwbacks. She's a Bajoran, and part of her
Trill.
Trill, yeah. So it's kind of neat. Couple little throwbacks there. So his two Romulan assistants assured him that they're going to talk to you. It's essentially the anniversary of the destruction of Romulus, a very a solemn day, and we're just we're here to I just want to interview you and talk to you about what happened that day. But his assistants assured him that they wouldn't talk about his departure from Starfleet. Obviously, what happens, or she dives right into it, after a couple of questions.
She's really mean.
She is, right? And like almost like she blames him for the destruction of Utopia Planitia.
Yeah.
Almost, right?
Which is really weird. Like she treats the Romulans, they're like, you wanted to save our oldest enemies.
Yeah. They treat them like less than actual they're like less than people, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, I understand that they may be our natural enemies, but they're still people. Like even he says it, like, yes, they may have been our enemies, but they are still people, right?
I really like that line when she's like, you wanted to save Romulan lives, and they're like, no, lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I wanted to save lives. The Romulan thing bugs me, and you've just recently watched Star Trek Nemesis, so I want to know her reaction to the Romulans. I feel is too negative, because at the end of Star Trek Nemesis, the Romulans were willing to make peace with the Federation. There was a peace treaty. Like they were ready to be like, okay, let's.
So there wasn't an actual treaty. It was because the treaty that they had actually sent out was actually in Nemesis, at least, was at the behest of oh god, what's his name?
Oh no, I'm talking Shinzon. I'm talking about the end when the new Praetor, the girl.
So the new that woman right there, she doesn't say that there's a peace treaty, but she does say that you have gained a friend today.
Yeah,
and we won't forget it, and hopefully this could be the first of many.
Right? Yeah, and I really feel like it's strange to kind of be like, yeah, after that happened, it was just business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, throughout most of Star Trek history, I mean, they have been if not one of the main antagonists. So
right, but so were the Klingons.
So of the Klingons, I mean, but actually they were historically, but I mean, for the course of Next Generation and DS9, we were allies for that. That's
right. And that's what I'm talking about.
12 years.
Right, that's what I'm talking about with the idea, like the Klingons after the destruction of their moon, the Khitomer Accords, and then the destruction of the Enterprise C. Like the Klingons were ready to like make peace with the Federation. They became allies with the Federation. Why didn't a similar thing happen to the Romulans? Why was the Federation like, no, Romulans, no?
The reason why, I'll just kind of play devil's advocate on this side.
Sure.
With what happened with the what happened at Khitomer was such a specific order of events that occurred to get to that point. And who knows what happened immediately after the Khitomer Accords, like how long it took for the event of Khitomer to the Accords. I mean, there had to have been a lot more that went on before. It's not like the next day it happened, right?
Well, yesterday's Enterprise talks about what happons after the Khitomer Accords.
Not immediately after.
No, I know, but like
we do understand. I'm wondering how long though it happened. How long between that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? I mean, 20 years does seem like a long time. Where you would have thought that, like, hey, ever since the events of Nemesis, maybe why didn't just going back to your question, why didn't it happen the same way as the Klingons? I don't know. Maybe the Romulans didn't accept the new Praetor. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I know, and I feel like maybe that'll be explained, but I have a feeling it won't be, because I just kind of wonder, like, it's such an easy thing to do. Let's just go back to the Romulans as villains. Yeah. And I feel like a more challenging thing would have been to do what they did Next Generation: have a Klingon on the bridge. Have the Romulans be the allies, and then make a new villain. But I mean, that's just not the story they want to tell. I'll accept that. It just kind of seems weird.
It's also a story that has yet to be told yet. So I mean, we don't know what will happen. Who else will be on the crew? Maybe it will. Mm-hmm. I want to save my final thoughts towards the end, because I have some more thoughts on this too. Actually, I'm going to write that down.
Go ahead. So anyway, so the girl talks about the Romulans, ambushes Picard, and she and he has a really, I think he has a really good thing where he's like, you don't even know what Dunkirk is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
like you don't care.
Yeah, he essentially puts her in her place.
Yeah,
right. And then pretty much just was like, hey, you know what, this interview's over. I'm not going to humor you with you watching getting a rise out of me getting upset over this, right?
right. So what did we think
but
about
before this? I'm sorry, before this we actually skipped a part. It was the girl and her boyfriend in the
I was just about to ask.
was that right before this interview? I thought it was right before this.
It was right before the interview, yeah, because she
Right.
sees him because of the interview.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, what do we think about Dodge? Now we don't have to recap the plot verbatim, but I think Dodge was actually a really interesting idea.
I really liked it because one, I mean, it just threw all of our theories out the window.
Yeah.
Right. which was neat. I love it when that happens in a good way, right? Not in a disappointing way. It was very interesting to me because it not only the creation of her and her sister is not only interesting in the sense that Picard will have a deep connection with them via data, but we have a connection with them even from TNG fans through Maddox, right? Through Measure of a Man season 2, right? If you remember,
is that the same Maddox?
That's the same Maddox. Yep, 100%.
Jesus.
Yeah. So they really went.
I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah, they went back, man. So this Maddox is still the same Maddox from Measure of a Man who wanted to bring data back, disassemble him to see how he ticked, and potentially create more.
He finally got his wish.
And then, so I'm sorry. So actually, those two were actually most likely. What it feels like they're trying to insinuate is that those two were created without the approval of Starfleet. Is that what it? Is that what?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
they were created either during the ban or after the ban. And like the whole thing where she's just like, you're telling me I'm a soulless murder machine. Like that's so disheartening because Data he had a soul.
Well, you see that, I mean, that's kind of what can happen when an entire one specific event could happen, a devastating event like that. From that point forward, I mean, if you didn't know anything about them, that's the one thing you're going to go to, right?
Yeah. It's just so like I can see why Picard's frustrated because he's just like,
well, cause she even asked him like, hey, did you ever lose your faith in Data or Commander Data? And he says never. Right.
I love his character. I love his acting in that moment because from that whole point, he's like really stressed, kind of like playing with his hands. He's like really irritated. Then she asks about Data and he's reassured. He smiles, but he's like, never.
But let me ask you this. So because of Patrick Stewart's age, there was a little hint of me wondering if he could still pull off that very authoritative Picard that we all know and love. And when after that interview, he's back. I was extremely happy.
I think it comes and goes.
It does. It will come and go. I mean, yeah. He's obviously more frail. He's not only pulling from TNG, but he's pulling from Logan too, as the frail Professor X. But you know what I'm saying though? Like we kind of got that back a little bit.
Yeah.
Got all the
and that's kind of the problem when you're doing like a series focused on one singular character, because we've only really gotten Picard in an ensemble. He's never really had to carry a full thing by himself. So we're actually seeing new things that we've never seen of him before. We're seeing him be a little bit more vulnerable. We've never seen him be vulnerable except for that one episode, Family.
Yeah.
So we've never really seen him kind of go between vulnerability and then the sternness of Picard. And so it's interesting the line that Patrick Stewart has to playing this character in ways that he's never done before.
And I think he's doing a great job so far, because there at no point throughout this entire first episode did I think that we are not watching Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I really like the little. I really wanted to say that I felt this episode, at least, didn't play too heavily on nostalgia, and I appreciated that.
It had just enough for me that they didn't. Yeah, it wasn't vomited on, right? Yeah, I think it was enough. And you know what I'm very, very curious about, and I'm really excited for Riley to finish up this episode. I'm curious to see how this show will be received by people who are not Trek fans, who have never seen Trek before, right? Now, she has seen a couple, but not from like a very beginning type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And she said that she was interested in watching this just via the trailer. Well, one, she's also a big Patrick Stewart fan, but it actually looked interesting to her, right? So I'm actually very, very excited to hear her hear her take on this.
I would be too.
Yeah,
would be
definitely
too.
will let you know. And if possible, maybe next week after episode 2, maybe I'll have her come in for a cameo.
Sure. I wanted to say that. So remember Data's original daughter, Lol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this would be her sister, essentially. I like the little bit.
Yeah, it would be. Oh, almost. Yes. Yeah, it would be her stepsister or half sister.
Yeah, I really appreciated how Picard said Data always wanted a daughter.
Yeah.
I thought that was really sweet.
And so Picard goes to Starfleet because he needs to go into his
to the museum.
record. Goes into his museum, right, which is located at Starfleet Academy or real close to it. It's in San Francisco.
It's in San Francisco. The cityscapes felt very 24th century to me in a way that the original series.
It did. It looked more updated than the TNG that we saw.
Yeah, that budgetary reasons, but like I kind of. Yeah,
I mean, especially for me living in the Bay Area, and I literally look at San Francisco almost on a daily basis. It's kind of neat seeing that.
Yeah, I felt like that was really cool seeing that the city looked like it was in the future, whereas in the original Next Generation, they really didn't have a lot of budget to play with when it comes to like city. So I thought that was cool. I like that.
I did too. So he goes to after Daj comes to visit Picard at the winery asking for his help. He automatically, believes her, or at least believes that she believes that she's in danger. Is what the words that he says. Notices the necklace. Obviously, as soon as we see him look at the necklace, it means something that we don't know yet at this point. We find out later in the episode that she's a twin. She runs off for a little while, and then he goes to. He has a dream. He has another dream of that's when Data's painting, and we see him. Be like, Data says, like, "Would you like to finish it, Captain?" He's like, "I don't know how." It's like, "That's not true."
What did you think of Data's look?
I mean, Brent Spiner's getting old, man. I mean, it
is
what it is,
They did CG him, but
they didn't CG him, and I mean, I'm not mad about it. I mean, it is what it is.
I know they did touch up in CG some of the wrinkles on his face.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they had the budget to go a little bit further and actually make him look like he was younger.
In all fairness, though, in the painting scene, they did CGI his midsection because he is a little bit chubbier than he actually is in that shot. But I mean, to be honest, I mean, just getting Brent Spiner back, I'm happy. I mean, yes, he's not going to look exactly the same, but at the same time, like, okay, I'm still happy that he's.
I do have a question. Alison Pill, who works at the Daystrom Institute, I really liked her character. I thought she played really well. She implies that through Daj and her sister, Data could still live. Could we be seeing Data's resurrection in the series? Do you think?
While I want to say yes, I almost hope no.
I hope no too.
That I mean, as it would because anytime you bring somebody back from the dead in any franchise, it takes away from that initial, like, I guess, the meaningful way that they died. The one thing that I wouldn't mind seeing is maybe if she has some like something similar to what Wesley Crusher had with his dad, maybe a holographic image that just says like, hey, hey, I am your father. This is what I do. This is what I strive to be. My hopes is that you are able to do the same. Blah 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 blah. Something like that. I'll be happy with. That's fine. Maybe like a reasoning as to why she exists along with her sister.
Yeah, it feels a little strange that she could look like a painting that was painted 30 years ago.
Yes, well, I mean,
there's something there.
So the painting was Maddox knew about. So he.
But how?
So, if you remember in Data's Day, I think it was season 5 or 4. The entire day the entire episode is through the lens of Data, and it starts out with him writing Bruce Maddox a letter, and he frequently corresponded with Maddox to help further his research. He just wasn't ready for him to actually go and get this assembled yet. So I'm assuming that through his correspondence, he may have shown him pictures of things that he painted, because we all know that Data was a painter, right? So that could be something, and I'm sure while it's not fully explained in TNG, I'd probably be very confident in saying that Maddox knew that he created Lol, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe once the Data was destroyed, maybe Maddox almost felt like he had a duty to his newfound friend, maybe, or colleague, that maybe he would create the daughter he never could. The daughters he never could, maybe.
I could be
into that. Big maybes. I love speculating, but
of course.
big maybes.
I could be into that. I wanted to touch on. I've talked a little bit about on our live shows of the Star Trek Countdown comic to the original J.J. Abrams film.
Yet. Oh, you mean the Countdown ones that I have? Yes.
Yeah. So the original J.J. Abrams films. In that, they say that B4 was successfully overwritten by Data's neural net.
So they obviously retcon that, right?
Which they retcon that, which is strange to me because Kurtzman wrote that comic.
Well, maybe what's his name had a little bit more influence than we thought.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting. Like Sparks asked me last week that could Star Trek Picard retcon any comics? Generally speaking, all comics are not canon. The TV show, Gene Roddenberry said that only the shows are canon. So I can totally buy that it was never canon, but it was also marketed as the first in canon comic. So it's a little strange to be like the person who wrote it also retconned it.
Well, I think that if you look at the kind of like, I guess, areas of I'm sorry, I'm thinking of a word right now. Priorities. Comic book, it would probably be the most easily retconned, then probably novels, and then probably other TV shows, and then whatever.
That's how the Star Wars hierarchy goes.
Yeah, exactly. So like if there's a comic book where they're like, you know what, we're gonna retcon that. No, we're changing that. That's
well, also Picard in that is an ambassador to Romulus and not an admiral.
Exactly. So there's a couple things that are changed. But
it's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
I really like Picard dealing with the Romulan relief effort. I'm a little hesitant about the Romulan strike force.
Yes, gosh, that was very reminiscent of
Jason Bourne.
Their version, huh?
Jason Bourne,
or their version of their Section 31, whatever. I can't remember what the Romulan Tal Shiar. I think that's like their new. That was their version, the Tal Shiar. Yes, Section 31.
That's Tal Shiar's daughter was part of that.
Tal Shiar's daughter was part of that, and also Deanna Troi was able to infiltrate as Tal Shiar.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
That was a good one, right?
Yeah,
I can't believe I remember that. That's awesome. But yeah, so that could be like their new version of the Tal Shiar, which whatever government that they're, I guess, a part of now.
Yeah.
So now we get to like the I guess the bread and butter, or the meat and potato. Bread and butter is fake nerd. So bread and butter of the midsection.
This is the news.
Of the show. She somehow is able. She has like all these new abilities. She doesn't know what's going on because she doesn't know that she's an android. So after her boyfriend gets killed by the Romulans, she almost gets captured, but then something, clicks and she's able to kung fu her way out of that.
She Jason Bourne's her way out of there.
Jason Bourne's her way out. Which, I mean, I get, like, so there's a lot of like Jason Bourning and matrixing, like in this not a lot, but just from her in general.
Yeah. I like the actress, and I was actually shocked that she died.
Oh yeah, so was I. However, I think, I mean, yeah, some will argue that like the action and the phasers and all that stuff, it's needed to draw in some crowds who want that action. But I still think that it didn't take away from. I still think it was a good slow episode, despite those two couple of action scenes. I don't think it took away from the story at all.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that. I do want to talk about my biggest issue with Star Trek Picard, and this just happens to coincide with all of Star Trek currently on the air.
Okay.
The spirit of hope and exploration, and the idea that we can be better, is missing from this because, and I will say, because this episode. And the biggest issue I had with Discovery was that Star Trek isn't supposed to feel cynical. Yes, it reflects society, but in a way that says, here's where we are, here's where we're better. And now
several times, yes.
Yeah, and now Picard is entering the cynical era of Star Trek because our world is more cynical than it was. So Alex Kurtzman decided to mirror that, and I think personally wrongly. So I'm a little hesitant, and I'm intrigued to see where it could go because it could find that spirit again. But as I said before, I don't think Star Trek is supposed to feel cynical, and this show so far felt cynical.
So I agree with you with 80% of that.
Sure.
Everything that you said after hope, because I do believe that hope exists in this show. It's just a different kind of hope that I think that we're used to. Exploration and all that, and the non-cynical thing. Yes, I agree. If you remember in episode 1 of Star Trek Next Generation, Q tells Picard, you are not meant to explore the stars. You're meant to explore what it means to exist, or the meaning of existence. Oh gosh, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it had to do. It very much tied into his relationship with Data, and Data being either property or sentient being, and it felt very reminiscent of almost a destiny that Picard was almost always meant to fulfill via Q. Because Q, I mean, time and space, that doesn't matter. He can go to any time and in any space or whatever. And for him to kind of say that makes me think like, oh, okay, they're taking a lot of what happened in that first episode of TNG and bringing it into the first episode of Picard. And when I say that I believe hope is here, it's Hope is Daj's sister, is Data's daughter, trying to show the universe that, hey, androids are not all that bad. Like, she is the hope that Picard is going to be chasing. If that makes sense.
I can understand that. I can understand that, but that's a. You're right in saying it's a different type of hope, but as I mentioned on our last live show that we did, when you are constantly fed a different Star Trek, like I said, most of the modern era of Star Trek has been very subverting of the tropes of the franchise. And you know what? It's an old franchise. It's due for some subverting. But when you're only subverting and constantly just trying to find different ways to turn it on its head, let's make a cynical Trek, let's make an evil Starfleet Trek, let's make a mirror universe Trek. Like, if you're constantly being fed one type of Trek, it begins to redefine what Star Trek is. And I think that's what we're experiencing in the modern age. And I don't think I think Picard is a symptom of a larger thing. And so I'm not throwing it all on Picard. I'm just saying modern Trek is becoming this.
Now, do you think that, I mean, because I'm tending to agree with you. Do you think that we're just maybe too stubborn in wanting to change?
Yeah, could be an element of that. I'll admit. There's certainly that.
I hate change. I hate change.
That's fine.
But you know, it's
fine.
I
admit
admit that I do that.
It's kind of more like, it's not so much that I dislike change, because I'll admit I'm like, you want to change James Bond, and I'm a little hesitant of a change that comes to Bond, for example. If you want to change Star Trek, yeah, I'll be a little hesitant towards that. But a good story for me generally prevails. If it's a good story, I'm okay with that.
The stories, as we've seen so far, is that outweighing what you're seeing in Trek now, in modern Trek?
A little bit. I haven't. My biggest criticism.
Episode 1 of 8, right?
Right.
So
my biggest criticism with my biggest criticism with the episode is that there's still just a lot of lingering, not necessarily questions, but story. Yeah. There's a lot of story yet to be revealed to us.
Yeah, and I don't mind that, especially because I was really hoping that this wouldn't just jump off and we'd see him helm a captain's chair at the very end of episode 1. I was hoping for just this, that it's going to take time to build to that point.
Yeah. No, I get you. Yeah.
I'm hopeful. I'm more hopeful for episode 2 than I was for episode 1. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
All right.
And I want to just to piggyback off of a little bit more on the resistance to change thing. I kind of feel like if this was the first Star Trek we got,
yes,
and we didn't have Discovery,
but
I think I'd be way more interested.
I almost think that this could even be a response to Discovery as well, too.
We'd have to wait and see, but I can see how it could be.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have more hope for episode 2 in the future than like after seeing episode 1 of season 1 of Discovery, I was not hopeful for season 2 or for episode 2. Like, this is the complete opposite. Like, okay, I'm like, all right, well, episode 1 really impressed me in a way. And I mean, my expectations were lower than Discovery or anything else, but because, and also for the fact that like you can't do any better than TNG in my eyes, and so to bring something so sacred back, I was hesitant about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I wonder if I'd feel this way if we had a more traditional Star Trek show on the air right now, and this was the spinoff, or Discovery was also the spinoff. Like, now we're getting the Section 31 show, and I've seen 2 shows now that have an quote unquote evil Starfleet. Now I'm going to get a 3rd one about evil Starfleet. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's too. It's Star Trek. I shouldn't feel like it's cynical.
Yeah. I'm. But at the same time, like conflict and cynicalities, it sells.
Yeah,
right. That's how they're trying to get these,
especially in today's era.
Yes, right. So, I'm very, very, like I said, I'm very interested to see what she thinks about it.
Me too.
I am hopeful for episode 2. So,
and I'm interested to know where it goes.
Yes. Ranking over the past 6 months, episode 1's Mandalorian episode 1 is above Star Trek Picard episode 1, but Star Trek Picard episode 1 is above Witcher episode 1 for me.
I just finished episode 5. I really like it.
Of Witcher?
Yeah.
I finished it the other day. I was pleased with it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. But I mean, I'm like thinking about like all the big shows that have been coming out. Right, I think this has to be among one of the bigger shows, especially that has at least been marketed from a huge franchise, right?
Yeah.
or network. So I mean, among that, I think it holds up to the standards of those other two shows that I mentioned.
Yeah, it definitely has my interest. I am definitely here to see where it goes. And it's like I said, it's nice to see Patrick Stewart as Captain Picard again.
It is. Man, he's moving slow. I hope he's all good.
Yeah, did you hear? And we'll talk about it on this week's episode of Fake Nerd Podcast. But Whoopi Goldberg's coming back for season 2.
Yeah, maybe coming back for season 2. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For a split second there, I actually thought that maybe Guinan's race had some kind of like weird trill effect where maybe she was now in the body of this new young girl, and I was like, oh no, Data. Okay.
Oh yeah,
I get that for just a split second, especially when she was saying like, do you know me? I feel like you should know me, or I know you. And I'm like, is this like a new version of Guinan that we don't know about?
You know, but funny if it was Dax.
Oh, that would have been neat.
If it was the next Dax.
Yeah.
That would have been funny.
Yeah.
I still want Ezri Dax to come back.
I know. 20 years in the future, she'd
still be around.
Yeah.
Might be a captain.
Yeah. Might be. Who knows? She could be all kinds of things. We still have yet to see anyone else from the cast, like Riker or Troy.
Yeah,
like we've seen
7 and 9.
There's also a bunch of stuff in the trailers that are at Starfleet Academy or Starfleet that we haven't seen yet. His interaction with probably someone in high command.
What do we see in this episode that you just reminded me of? We didn't talk about the Borg cube.
Ish. The Borg cube ish. Yeah. The Borg cube. Yeah. So the very end of this the last scene, we see the Romulan, the bearded Romulan guy. He's walking through it looks like a Romulan outpost somewhere, and we see him talking to Daj's twin sister, who apparently she seems to know a lot more than her sister did.
She knows she's a twin.
She knew she was a twin. She looks like she had already been very. She looked like she's already been. God, what am I thinking of? She's already in her position at work.
Yeah, I really appreciate that the actress. Yeah, I really appreciate that the actress played it differently. I felt like they were two different characters right away. I thought that was really cool.
As they should be, because in their eyes, they should be two different people, unless this one knows that they're an android. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think she is also.
I don't think so either. Yeah. But we know a little bit more about what she believes is about the necklace, right?
Yeah.
She believes that it's it's from her father, that is for her and her twin.
Yeah.
We learned at the Daystrom Institute that actually meant something else. Do you recall what that was?
I don't. It was some technobabble.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. I missed it. I missed all that babble. Some of my favorite parts was Geordi talking, because everything he said made no sense to me, and I loved it.
I do want to go back to I loved the scene at the Daystrom Institute with Alison Pill. That's my favorite scene in the episode, when she shows up and she's talking about it's like is it possible to make a synthetic out of flesh and blood? It's like, short answer is no. What's the long answer? It will also be no.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah, she was very, very good. I'm really excited to see more of her.
Me too. Me too.
So anyway, so they're talking. They have this is one scene that I wasn't too fond of on the male Romulan side of it, the acting side, or the dialogue side of it. Apparently these two just met for the first time, and all of a sudden he wants to kind of give her a look into his like very personal past. And I'm like, no, but that doesn't seem realistic. Nobody just goes up to somebody who they first meet and talks about their
well past, he's trying to manipulate her.
I understand that too. Just seemed a little fast for me. I don't know, but I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not going to hold it against the entire show or episode, because it really didn't matter. It was just a little tiny quirk for me, nothing crazy.
Sure.
But obviously the big reveal for that scene is like, okay, they're zooming out. You see a couple new updated Romulan ships of some sort.
Birds of prey.
zooming out. You see some walls that look kind of eerily green. Keep zooming out, then all of a sudden it's the Borg. It's a modified Borg cube. That is looks like a converted that has been converted into a
Romulan reclamation site.
Reclamation site, I guess. And
so there are
if
humans.
You notice, there's a couple of freeze frames that I saw people posting about. There are some empty Borg. Oh god, what are those little sleeping cubicles that they?
I don't remember the name.
Yeah,
I know what they are.
Those there, and it looked like some of the Romulans were running tests on them, which is kind of interesting.
I find it interesting. So there are humans working there, which means that this has to be, if not Federation, then a joint effort to help the Romulans in some way. This is in some way a good thing.
And who knows? Maybe some parts of the rescued Romulans that whoever Picard was actually able to save, maybe they actually became part of the Federation after they. Who knows, right?
Maybe.
So
I think a solid start.
Very solid start. I'm very happy about it. I'm hopeful for the future.
Yeah,
for next week.
I am certainly intrigued.
And even though I'm paying the $5.99 a month now for CBS All Access, I haven't finished Discovery, so I'll do that.
Now I feel like I got it because I need to make this $5.99 a month worth it.
Exactly. I gotta watch it. I still haven't watched the shorts too. I'll watch that other short too.
I recommend the Giacchino short.
Yeah. Because after that, somebody said, or you said that the Mars incident,
or the Children of Mars.
Yeah, the Mars. Yeah. I want to watch more of that. So
so that'll do it, I guess, for this episode of Fake Nerds Watch. Join us next week, Michael. There you are. Where can they find you?
Oh, they can find me at the Downright Nerdy Podcast. You can just type that in somewhere, either on the YouTubes or any podcasting apps, and you'll find us. I'm also on the Instagram and the Twitters, but I don't really twat very often. So just do the Instagram. That's good enough for me. But yeah, YouTube and all this stuff. We do a lot of other things on the YouTubes, movie reviews and unboxings and live shows, and come find
very cool. And as I said, thank you for doing this. This was a lot of fun. And as I said, I'm from the FakeNerd Podcast. If you are on this channel, then just click that subscribe button, subscribe. Michael's information will be linked below. So definitely check all that stuff out. You can find me personally at BT McClure, and you can find our show on FakeNerd Podcast, on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. This week we are talking about the current state of DC Comics, and we just put up an episode of Doomsday Clock and Crisis on Infinite Earths. So,
one thing I just realized in this universe of Star Trek Picard, both Romulus and Vulcan are destroyed. Are they?
No, Vulcan's still around.
Vulcan in this still around?
Yeah.
Okay, so Vulcan was destroyed in the J.J. Abrams universe.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Right. So, the two universes are missing one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that'll do it. And until next week, guys, live long and prosper.